Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We know that one statement made by different people in the society could have a different impact. That is, if a person with no authority and no power makes a certain claim or, a statement, maybe it's just going to be ignored and doesn't really matter. But if someone high up with authority and power and influence in society makes the same statement, then you look at it more carefully, because that person could have the authority to implement it. The other one, you don't care. Like, for instance, you remember Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen warlord. He said that, maybe Russia should use some small nuclear weapons in Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? You don't have it, so yeah, you can talk how much you want. Or you maybe remember Zelensky said, maybe NATO should, drop some preemptive nuclear strike on Russia. Well, who cares? You don't have it, so you know what I mean? But if Putin would say that, or Macron would say that, or someone who possesses them, then it's a little bit different. So I have here an article with an Ukrainian MP, and he is going to make some statements, and we're going to discuss the gravity or lack of the statements made by this important or non-important Ukrainian MP. He is important if he has a position of authority and power, and he already is an MP, but there are MPs and MPs, there are senators, let's say, and senators, or, representatives and representatives. So, this article comes from Russia Today from today, February 4th, 2023. Moscow, and I'm quoting, legitimate target for Ukraine, MP said. Kiev won't rule out using Western weapons to strike targets inside Russia, a Ukrainian lawmaker has said. Now let's see how much authority this guy has, and who is this guy. Kiev's forces will not hold back when it comes to hitting locations inside Russia, according to Fyodor Venislavsky, a member of the Ukrainian Parliament's National Security, Defense and Intelligence Committee. So he's not anybody. He's more than just an MP. He's a member of the Parliament's National Security, Defense and Intelligence Committee. So he's a little bit higher up than a regular weasel. So he's a weasel with two pairs of balls. So, speaking to German Bild tabloid on Saturday, he also described Moscow as a, and I'm quoting, legitimate military target. Now, if he's talking about Moscow, residential Moscow, I don't think that is a legitimate military target, because therefore you will call anything that hits Ukrainian towns or cities and civilians military targets, which we don't, right? You guys consider that for good reason, that now they don't fall and there are crimes and all that. And that should be true for you as well, if we are to say that we are just and we are moral and all that. Now, do I think that the Ukrainians have the right to hit inside Russia? By all means. The Russians are hitting inside of Ukraine. So again, based on the principle of reciprocity, I think that's legitimate. Now, there are certain things that you can call immoral. Now, if you really want to keep your moral high ground, then you don't use the principle of reciprocity. So there is, if his army rape your citizens in the name of reciprocity, you will not do that if you want to keep and maintain your moral standards and values and principles. If you do the same thing, it's not like I'm good because he did it. No, you committed the same crime as your enemy. You're the same. So let's go back to this person, Fyodor. By the way, today Fyodor Emelianenko fights with Bader in Bellator. Anyway, so let's move on. Anyone who believes that Kiev should commit to not using the arms supplied by its Western backers in attacks on Russian territory are living in a quote-unquote parallel world, claimed Vanislavsky, who is also Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's representative in the Constitutional Court. Now, in reality, he tells the truth here. Who thinks that the Ukrainians will not use those weapons to hit Russian territory are living in a parallel world. He's just real. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, yes, I think that's 99% certain that will occur. We know that. We anticipate that. Move on, Vanislavsky. Okay, Vanislavsky insisted that any munition depots as well as other military facilities on the territory of Russia are, and I'm quoting, legitimate military targets. I think they are, because that country, from your perspective, attacked you. So if it's military facilities, ammunition depots, yes, I think he's not outside of the legal, requirements. Adding that the same goes for Moscow. Nah, I don't think so. Here you're just splintering. So no, I don't think the same thing applies to Moscow. The Russian capital is the country's most populous city, with around 13 million people according to official data. Yeah, with the suburbs goes to 21 million. I just checked that the other day to make a point. Moscow hosts the General Staff headquarters as well as Russia's National Defense Management Center, which are both in the city center. Vanislavsky stressed that he has no issue with Ukraine potentially attacking any command center in the Russian capital. Okay, Mr. Stanislavsky, do you have any idea why Zelensky and you and others have, headquarters and command centers were not blown up by the Russians? All right, if you don't know, then go check that out. And when you find the truth or you find why, you come and let us know, okay? Because the Russians did not do to you the same thing. It doesn't mean you can't. Well, if they're command centers, I guess under the rules of law, nothing prevents you from doing that. But anyway, you will kind of lose the higher moral ground here if you would do that. Because I don't remember Russians trying to blow up Yermak and what's his name, Shmihal. I know that Putin promised, I made a video a minute ago, promised the Israeli former Prime Minister Bennett in March 2022, when Bennett visited Moscow, begged Putin, promise me that you're not going to kill Zelensky. And Putin said, no, I'm not going to kill Zelensky. And he said, tell me again. And he said, no, I'm not going to kill Zelensky. So that's why Zelensky now is like a lion, because Bennett called him while in Moscow and let Zelensky know he's not going to kill you. And he said, are you sure about that? Yes, I'm sure about that. And then Zelensky came and made a video, I'm not afraid. That's how Zelensky operates. But what do you want? He's a weasel. What do you expect? So again, he was not blown up by the Russians, not because the Russians were not able. I don't think that they were not able. I think they were able, but to do what? Change a shit for a different shit, just with a different kind of stench? I don't think that matters, you know what I mean? Anyway, so let's go back to this article. See what this Balagansky says. Moscow hosts, the MP did not say whether Kiev already has specific plans regarding targets, adding that it was for the Ukrainian military leadership to decide whether to strike locations inside Russia, including Moscow. I don't think so. I think that decision comes from Zimbabwe, from across Atlantic Ocean. That's where that comes. And if they say back off, you bet your ass you back off. Otherwise, you're going to go and face Putin on the other side of the table for a peace process and all that. I guarantee you that. Just don't listen to what your guys tell you, and then you're gonna see how quickly you will be on Russia's claws. Anyway, so let's go back here, and says Vanislavsky remarks came a day after the Pentagon announced it was supplying Kiev with ground-launched small-diameter bombs, GLSDB, munition consisting of a rocket motor and an airplane bomb with a range of up to 150 kilometers, 93 miles. They will increase this a little bit. I'm not worried about that. That's a fact. We know that. They're just gonna do it more and more. They started with HIMARS, they started with howitzers, and then they went to HIMARS, and now they got with this one. So no problem. So it is unclear if Kiev has obtained any weapons capable of striking Moscow, since the capital lies some 500 kilometers, 310 miles away from Russia's nearest border with Ukraine. Let me confess that yes, they are not obtained. They had them all the time. And there is those drones, so-called, with jet engines that operate, designed by the Soviets in 1970s, remember, upgraded in the 1990s and 2006 or so, the ones that they used to hit the Engels military air bases, remember those ones? And they were at 750 kilometers inside Russia. 700 kilometers inside Russia is not 500 Moscow. So yes, they are way within the range. Those missiles, they're called drones, 1970s, whatever. Those drones, those missiles have a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. So double, they can go to Moscow and come back if they want, okay? So they have them. I'm surprised these guys don't know anything about it. Or maybe they just didn't want to mention it because they think we're just tards. But anyway, some of us are tards, I agree with you guys. But anyway, let's move on. Washington previously stated that it would not prevent Kiev from using the new weapons to strike targets deep within Russia. The development sparked an angry reaction from Moscow. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev warned on Saturday that Ukraine would burn, end quote, if it decides to attack Russian territory, including the Crimean Peninsula. Well, you can be as much as angry as you want. The problem is, you can't, let's start over. I think, based according to the evidence that these guys provided to us, I think this is a very much controlled. Why? Because you can't just say, well, I'm not going to hit without inside Russia, just give me those weapons. What is that? And I don't think the Russians, okay, we're not going to kill Zelensky. What is that? And not only that, remember when the Russians started hitting infrastructure, I'm talking about, power plants and all that, after the Ukrainians allegedly blew up the Kerch Bridge, which the Russians consider, right, civilian infrastructure. Well, the tanks are using it, so the tanks are using towns. They eat food that is produced by civilians. Does that mean that the civilians are a legitimate target? No. So there's the same thing here. You blew up that bridge. They told you not to do it. You did it. They told you if you do that, we're going to blow up your things. And they did. Everybody, oh my God, look at it. So they didn't do it before you did it. Little thing that you did. It doesn't mean that if I come and punch you one time in the face, that's all you can do. Punch me one time in the face. No. You have the right to punch me how many times you want, if you can. I mean, I was the first one who elevated it from nothing to a punch. Who says that you have to only meet my punch? No, because I already elevated this much. You, in order to elevate it as I elevated it, you have to go 2 times. You have to punch me at least 2 times. That's the way I operate, at least. I don't give the same thing you gave me when it's about that. I go full in, and the Russians did not go full in. Believe me, if they wanted to flatten Kiev, they could have done it. They didn't. Why? Because I think that these guys with the Americans are communicating behind. And they're saying, if these guys are doing that, this is what I'm going to do. Remember when the Ukrainians used to kill thousands, quote unquote, just bullshitting, Russian generals? Do you remember? They killed 20. How come none of them was killed in the past, I don't know, 7 months or so? Since July or something? I haven't heard of any Russian general being killed on the front. Did you? How is that possible? Because the guy says, if you do that, the time is up for those weasels. And say, okay, time out. I'm not going to go into who helped the Ukrainians do that. And then all of a sudden said, okay, stop, don't do that. But isn't that strange that you hit them, pop, 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 and then you stop? All of a sudden, nothing, zero, zip, dead. It's a control thing here, okay? Not only, but Coming back at this guy, I think if he hits civilian, if Ukraine hits anything, even a military base in Moscow, even if he kills military, infrastructure in Moscow, the Russians will just go ballistic, and they can. They can. Don't listen to this guy saying, no, they're out of missiles, they're out of this. They will escalate it. Big time. I'm 99% certain. When I'm 99, I'm saying 99 because I can't say 100. Because it's always, that I always leave a little whistle way out. When I say 99, that means for me in my head is I guarantee you that. When it's 90, 98, I have a little bit of doubt. I have no doubt here, but I can say 100% because I don't go all the way like that. 99% that the Russians will them up if these guys hit Moscow. Control center, command center, military tanks, ladies of the night will not matter. You'll see. I hope they are as rational to avoid doing that, unless they just want to be flattened out. We'll find out. After all, Zelensky, anyway. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just, my friends. Just my friends.